Hello, I'm Richard Ridge for BroadwayWorld, the legendary songwriting team of Tom Jones and Harvey Schmidt, who have given us such musicals as The Fantasticks and I Do, are receiving the 2017 Oscar Hammerstein Award for Lifetime Achievement in Musical Theater from the York Theatre Company, and we dropped by the Asia Society to catch up with the legendary team. What does this honor mean to both of you?
Well, I couldn't be happier about this. I've been ill for a number of years down in Texas. I've been living down there in a house I bought for my parents many years ago. And so it's a real adventure for me to get on a plane now and come back to New York. I always adored New York City. Every day I thought, my God, I love New York, you know. Even though when it came time originally to go to New York, I didn't want to give up Texas. But now I've had New York as long as I would care to have it, I think. And although it was exciting to come back today, beautiful weather, and so I forgot my train of thought. But
what this honor means to you tonight?
Oh, well, it's a great honor. You know, there have been so many top people they've honored over the years, and all the real giants, you know, of musical theater, and that makes it a special honor for me to think that that pantheon is for us too, you know.
Oh, yes, particularly it's especially nice to me coming from the York Theatre, which has been sort of our second home, and it's like been there for us if we wanted to try something new or if we wanted to revive something and play with it a little bit. And it means especially a lot to me because my wife, Janet, who died just a couple of years ago, did choreographed or did musical staging for 16 shows at York. So I feel like it's a great honor made greater by the fact that I so respect and love the people who have given it to us.
You know, the two of you performed your show, The Show Goes On, at the York. What are your fondest memories of doing that show, working together at the York?
It was just great fun. We had to share a dressing room, for starters.
What was that like?
Well, no, we got along there good, too. And so it was very, very much fun. And a lot of music I had to learn from scratch, even though I'd composed it earlier. And but I was very pleased with it in every way. I loved the cast that we had, and it wasn't easy to cast it, really. But that all worked out. And I've just been playing it again recently. I hadn't played it for a long time. And I was just amazed at some of the songs, how great they are.
For you, Tom?
Yes, I mean, it was fun to do. And it was great that a retrospective of our work, but we got to choose the things we wanted to do. And it was done in the York Theatre, which is very intimate. And I'll never forget one night we did several shows with David Merrick, the sacred monster of Broadway, and he at that time had a stroke and couldn't speak, and but he could scowl, he could still, and he was in a wheelchair, and there were no wheelchair access, so they brought him down to the foot. The stage is elevated about 2 feet from the basic level, and they put his feet up against there, and he kept his Homburg hat on, and he's staring at us like he would have loved to get up and kill us. And so we're doing all these jokes, and I had to tone down some of the David Merrick stories, but that was very memorable to me. I mean, wow. That was scary. And David Merrick was always scary, really.
What do you attribute your collaboration to? Why do you think it's worked so well?
Well, you know, Tom just asked me, this is a shocking story to me because I just arrived as a freshman at the University of Texas, and he was head of the Curtain Club there, which was a very highly viewed job there. And I just took some of the posters off the trees that they said, if you have just newly arrived at the University of Texas and you would like to do acting or any kind of technical work or design sets or play the piano, all of which I did. And I had spent my whole life in little towns where none of this was taught. And suddenly I was just at the University of Texas. I thought there are hundreds of people doing what I had wanted to do my whole life. And so it was just a godsend. And then what I couldn't believe, though, that when Tom came over, he had just seen a show of my artwork there at the Hogg Auditorium and just came out and called and he said, "Aren't you Harvey Schmidt?" And I said, "Yes, sometimes." And he said how much he'd admired my artwork. And then he told me how he was considering doing a project for the University of Texas journalism department. They would do a original musical every year. And he said that he was getting such horrible scripts and that he thought, having heard me play accompanying for a lot of the actors there in the weekly shows we would do, that might possibly, if I were interested, try to do an original musical. And so that was our first show, and we're doing the first song tonight here that we wrote ever.
What is that song?
It's called the Freshman Song.
Yeah.
It's the first song in the show, and it's the first day of school. This freshman kid comes and overwhelmed by the terror of trying to fit in.
Try to Remember has been recorded by so many incredible artists all around the world. How did you come up to write that number?
Well, musically, it was just dropped in my lap. I didn't even have a good piano in the apartment that I lived. I was working for NBC at that time, and I would stop by walking back home, stop off at the concert hall on 57th Street, the Steinway Concert Hall, and they had rooms there for rent. They're old Steinways, and you could rent them by the hour. And it was so seductive to be able to play on these Steinway pianos. And I would stop there almost every afternoon after I'd get off from NBC. And then, but this was in the summer. They didn't have any air conditioning. And I was just pounding away I think it was the section for the Fantasticks where the boy goes out into the real world. And there was lots of pagan rhythms and jazzy things.
I remember when you did pagan rhythms. Yeah, yes. That's.
They're actually based on my Methodist church background. But anyway, so I just got exhausted. It was so hot, and I took my tie off, my NBC tie, and then I just thought, well, I'm paying a lot of money for this space. I've got to keep playing, And I thought, well, for a change of pace, I just forget about my pagan rhythms, and I just my keys fell to the keyboard, and I just played "Try to Remember," and just very simple and pure. And I thought, my God, that's pretty. I think it's Streets of Laredo, probably, but I just kept playing it though, and then eventually I got a piano at home and. Tom would hear me playing, then I'd explain. And we had an opening number for El Gallo, another song, which was quasi-operatic. But Tom heard me playing this, and he said, it's such a beautiful melody, and it just seems so right to invite people into the show. And I was all for, because I liked the music too. And he did a great lyric, just worked very hard. He was dating a girl out on Shelter Island, is that it?
No, Staten Island.
Staten Island. I've been away from New York too long.
We sound like the Sunshine Boys, the Neil Simon. But what was I going to say? Oh,
anyway, he worked very hard, but he had the long boat ride to go back and forth.
Yeah.
And it was all music first, and we worked in different ways.
I know what I was going to say. I believe that's the first song we ever wrote that was music first. We didn't know. We were not trained in music theater. I was in the drama school for 6 years, 2 degrees. We never did a musical. I was there winter and summer, spring and fall. And so we had no knowledge about musicals. And we thought, we couldn't conceive them another way. We didn't even think about it. You know, I write a lyric, and I give him in, he'd make them. So this was, I believe, the first time. This was such a haunting melody. I thought, God, that is so much better than what we have. Maybe I can do around and keep that same idea from the other song and keep it here.
Being here together today, what it means to both of you.
Oh, it's very exciting because we've had separate lives for a while. I've been so in and out of hospitals for several years, but I feel like it's all paid off now. I feel like I'm back to where I can function again as a human being, and about to. I mean, I'm on the edge.
Well, I mean, it's reassuring because it means we're both alive, and that's a step in the right direction, you know. And tonight we're going to do, I don't know, at this thing, we're going to do just 2 numbers. One is that first song we ever wrote, and the other one is a song about embalming, which I think is, its time is coming. That's about to be a pop hit, one of your big embalming songs, because there's no competition as far as I know.
Is that from one of your musicals?
Yeah, that's from a musical called The Bone Room.
Yeah.
A musical that's like Roadside. It's a musical that I everybody universally loathed. But I read that last year and sent it off, and it was done in Japan, and it was hailed as very avant-garde. But I think it's one of those shows that's better in Japanese, probably. You know.
I love it. Richard J. Alexander has put together a glorious show tonight, a beautiful gala for you, bringing back so many people that you're going to know. I mean,
it's going to be so exciting, and many of them we've worked with, but there are also some younger ones that we haven't worked with, and the beat goes on.